Welcome to the Deep Dive. So glad you're with us today. We're about to explore a truly ancient text, one that's surprisingly rich with insights into human nature, unexpected divine intervention, and truths that still resonate powerfully today.
Absolutely. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack excerpts from Genesis, specifically chapter 20. We'll be drawing directly from the 21st century King James Version. Now, for those maybe not familiar, it's basically an updated KJV. It aims to keep that sort of majesty and rhythm of the original.
Right, the feel of it.
Exactly. But making the language a bit more accessible for today's listeners. It's, I think, a really insightful lens for this ancient and really compelling narrative involving Abraham, Sarah, and King Abimelech. We'll be pulling out the key nuggets of knowledge, the insights from each part of the story, and sort of understanding how its layers of meaning still challenge and inform us.
Okay, so let's open this up. We start with Abraham journeying toward the south country and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur and sojourned in Gerar. That's verse 1. And then, bam, right in verse 2, Abraham makes this rather bold and, as we'll see, pretty problematic claim about Sarah. He introduces her to King Abimelech of Gerar, saying, "She is my sister."
Yeah.
What's the immediate fallout from that? What does it set in motion?
Well, the immediate consequence is quite stark and swift. Abimelech hears this claim, "She is my sister," and the text says he sent and took Sarah.
Just like that.
Just like that. So this action, based entirely on Abraham's misleading statement, it instantly puts Sarah in a really precarious situation, and it kicks off the whole dramatic sequence. And, this isn't the first time Abraham's done this kind of thing.
Right, I was thinking that. Genesis 12.
Exactly. He pulled a similar stunt with Pharaoh down in Egypt. So this repetition, it really raises an important question for us, doesn't it? What kind of fear or, motive would lead someone like Abraham, this figure known for his faith, to repeat such a misleading and dangerous statement about his own wife?
It suggests something pretty deep-seated.
It really does. A deep-seated human fear, maybe. Self-preservation overriding trust, even in someone chosen for these divine promises.
It's a striking pattern. And just as things look, well, pretty dire for Sarah, the narrative takes this sharp turn. Verse 3, God steps in directly, comes to Abimelech in a dream by night, and delivers this really stark warning. "Behold, thou art but a dead man because of the woman whom thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife." How does Abimelech, who isn't part of Abraham's covenant or people, how does he respond to this terrifying dream, this direct divine threat?
Well, this is a truly critical moment in the story, and it reveals something quite surprising about Abimelech's character, actually. The text makes a point of saying he had not come near her, and he immediately pleads his innocence. Verses 4 and 5, he says, "Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, She is my sister? And even she herself said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocency of my hands have I done this."
So he throws it back on Abraham and Sarah.
He does, but he emphasizes his own clean conscience. And what's really profound here is God's reply in verse 6. God says, "Yea, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thy heart.
Wow.
For I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore I suffered thee not to touch her."
Yeah.
This interaction, it just highlights how God recognizes and protects true integrity, even in a non-believing king.
That's incredible.
And God intervenes to stop an innocent party, Abimelech in this case, from falling into sin because of someone else's deception. It kind of forces you to reconsider your assumptions about who holds the moral high ground here. God sees the intention, not just the action.
That divine recognition of Abimelech's integrity is, powerful and quite surprising given the context. But God doesn't just leave him with, okay, you're innocent. What instructions and consequences follow? And how does Abimelech then react to this whole divine decree?
Right. God's decree is very specific.
Yeah.
In verse 7, he doesn't just acknowledge his innocence. He gives Abimelech a direct command and a pretty grave warning. "Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live."
A prophet, even after the lie.
Exactly. We'll come back to that. But then the warning, "And if thou restore her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that are thine."
The whole household.
The whole household. So Abimelech's response, verse 8 tells us it's immediate. Very telling. "Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told all these things in their hearing, and the men were sore afraid."
Understand.
Yeah, it just shows the profound impact of that dream. The very real, perceived threat of divine wrath on his entire house, his kingdom. It's a powerful display of the fear of God's power, even outside Abraham's own people. And back to your point, it raises that fascinating paradox. God calls Abraham a prophet right in the middle of this mess caused by his deception.
So what does that mean?
Well, it suggests perhaps that spiritual standing isn't just nullified by human failings, but those failings can definitely create huge problems for others. It makes you think, doesn't it, about what it truly means to be a prophet. Is it about perfect behavior, or is it about being somehow a conduit for God's word and power despite human flaws?
That's a crucial point, this idea that someone can be divinely appointed yet still deeply flawed. So with this divine command ringing in his ears, what's that inevitable confrontation like when Abimelech calls Abraham to account? How does he express his anger, and what does he demand to know?
The confrontation is understandably tense. Verses 9 and 10. Abimelech calls Abraham in and confronts him directly. And his words that convey this real sense of betrayal, exasperation. He says, "What hast thou done unto us? And how have I offended thee, that thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done."
He sounds genuinely hurt and confused.
Absolutely. He then pointedly asks, "What sawest thou, that thou hast done this thing?" Abimelech is clearly bewildered, deeply offended. He's been put in a terrible spot, his kingdom threatened, all because of Abraham's actions. That question, "What sawest thou?" it really cuts to the heart of it. Like, what possible justification could you have for such dangerous deception?
And Abraham's attempt to explain himself is, well, it's quite layered, isn't it? What does he offer up as his justification, and what does that tell us about his motivations?
Yeah, layered is a good word for it. His justification in verses 11 to 13, it's complex. First, he admits, "Because I thought surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake."
So fear, pure and simple.
Exactly. That's the underlying motivation. Fear for his life in a foreign land where he just assumed there was no moral compass, no divine restraint. Then he offers what he probably sees as a kind of half-truth.
The "she is my sister" part.
Right. He says, "And yet indeed she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife." Now, technically that was true. Sarah was his half-sister. But using it that way is clearly deceptive. It's a partial truth designed to mislead. And then he even reveals this pre-existing agreement he had with Sarah, a sort of insurance policy they used. "At every place whither we shall come, say of me, he is my brother."
So it wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing, it was planned.
It was a premeditated strategy, a repeated pattern like we talked about with Egypt. This whole explanation, it just reveals this fascinating interplay of profound fear, a calculated strategy for self-preservation, and maybe a real lapse in faith that God would protect him and Sarah, even in the midst of danger. It shows us that even the most revered figures, people of great faith, can rationalize actions driven by fear, despite their calling.
It's a stark reminder, isn't it, that even our heroes, the ones we look up to in faith, are profoundly human, capable of serious missteps when fear grabs hold. But despite this, pretty awful deception and the huge risk it caused, the resolution is quite striking. Abimelech responds with, frankly, incredible generosity and this powerful act of restitution. What does that resolution look like? And what's particularly nuanced about how he interacts with Sarah?
Yes, the resolution is remarkably generous. It really highlights Abimelech's character again. In verses 14 and 15, he responds not with anger or punishment, but with abundance. He took sheep and oxen and men servants and women servants and gave them unto Abraham and restored him Sarah his wife.
He gives him gifts and his wife back.
Yes. And he even offers Abraham land and hospitality. "Behold, my land is before thee. Go all where it pleaseth thee." But you're right, there's that fascinating, subtle moment where Abimelech addresses Sarah directly. That's verse 16. He tells her, "Behold, I have given my brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes unto all who are with thee and with all other."
Covering of the eyes. What does that signify?
Well, it's more than just money. It's a powerful public statement.
Yeah.
See, in that ancient culture, Sarah's reputation would have been seriously compromised by Abraham's lie and by her being taken into Abimelech's household, even though nothing happened.
Right. The perception would be damaging.
Exactly. So this 1,000 pieces of silver, it acts as a public vindication. It effectively blinds or covers any potential shame or gossip surrounding her. It restores her honor and status in the eyes of Abimelech's court and, crucially, her own household. Like a public declaration of her innocence, while also being a subtle but firm reproof of Abraham's actions that put her in that position.
That's a powerful detail, how a cultural gesture could actually restore a reputation like that. And finally, after all this deception, the confrontation, the restitution, we see a complete restoration. both for Abimelech's household and, maybe most importantly, a demonstration of God's mercy. How does the story wrap up?
And finally, in verses 17 and 18, we see that complete restoration. It happens after Abraham fulfills his role as that prophet God identified him as. So Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservants, and they bore children.
So that was the issue.
So the Lord had closed up fast all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So God had clearly inflicted some kind of curse on Abimelech's household, likely a severe fertility issue because of the unintentional wrong committed due to Abraham's deception.
Even though Abimelech was innocent in intent?
Correct. But once Abraham, the prophet, prays, God lifts the curse. The healing happens. This whole ending presents that fascinating paradox again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have this man divinely appointed as a prophet acting out of profound fear and deception. Yet God still protects him, identifies him as his servant, and uses his prayer to bring healing.
It forces you to grapple with things.
It really does.
Yeah.
With the complexities of human imperfection alongside divine purpose. And maybe it makes us reevaluate what righteousness truly means in a biblical context.
Yeah.
It definitely tells us about the enduring power of prayer and divine mercy, even after such a, significant lapse in judgment by Abraham.
Wow, what a deep dive that was. We've journeyed through Abraham's quite shocking deception, Abimelech's really surprising integrity, God's direct and powerful intervention, and then this profound path to restoration. This ancient narrative, it truly unpacks themes of fear, faith, the unexpected nature of integrity, consequence, and the profound power of repentance and healing. It's a story that really challenges us to look beyond, simple heroes and villains.
Absolutely. I think this story shows us that even revered figures can falter significantly, but also how divine grace can navigate these really complex human failings to bring about justice and healing. And that healing, that justice, it even extends to those outside of God's direct covenant, like Abimelech. It really encourages critical thinking, doesn't it, about motivations, about the far-reaching impact of our actions, both good and bad, and about the different forms integrity can take, sometimes showing up where we least expect it. It's a powerful reminder, I think, that the fear of God can reside even in unexpected places, and that honesty, ultimately, is always the best policy.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Genesis chapter 20. We really hope this exploration has given you some new insights and maybe left you with plenty to ponder about that intricate dance between human fear and divine faithfulness. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.